Welcome to Bayside, celebrating 2 years in business. Welcome to Bayside, celebrating 2 years in business.
With like the city has to build a new roadway and it's a eminent domain type thing, but that's not what this is. So I just want to be clear out of the gate that we are not in a position to compel a sale to the city. Okay, so that's why I talk about the importance of having professional conversations and keeping open so that we could potentially have negotiations. The last little comment there, I've kind of already mentioned this, but I want you to know that my commitment as your city manager, my commitment to my council, to you all, and even to the property owner of the golf course is to be professional, be fair, to share information, and to communicate as we need to communicate on this. So, there will be no attempts to do any kind of misleading steps on this, because it's too important to you, it's too important to us, and I think we all need to be respectful of each other in this situation. We may not like that we're here, but we're going to try to find a solution as we go forward. So first thing, and this is for my council because this was their direction to me to look at, do we have the ability to purchase it? So here are considerations that I have to bring forward. The first one is, do I have a willing seller? And I also put up there a reference to return on investment, because I know that with any investment, with any purchase, there's an expectation of that person that owns that property that they get some sort of return on their investment. So that certainly is a factor in what we're dealing with the current owner of the property. I referenced what was the price point. I have thrown out numbers hypothetically, and I know I've talked to many of the residents out here about hypothetical numbers. No, there has been no one has shown me, let me put it this way, an official offer that has been made to try to buy the golf course, but I know that there have been plenty of conversations that have been had. So I'm not currently aware of a formal offer that was either given or rejected, but I know that there are members here who've been a part of some of those conversations I have not been privy to. They're probably going to speak about that tonight. So I could not give you a firm number tonight of what is the price point. That's kind of the gist of that particular comment. But I will tell you, if we're trying to get to a price point, there are things we have to look at first as the city per our policies and doing the right thing for the taxpayers. The first of which is you have to do an appraisal. So that's step one. Our appraisals on average depends on the size of the property, but you can assume it would cost us maybe somewhere in the $5,000 range, something like that. But then there's going to be other questions that council would have to consider if you direct staff to go down this path. One of which is, are you willing to pay above appraised value? Which is not something we typically do, but certainly could be a factor in this given the property owner's interest in a certain return on her investment. So that's something we'll have to keep in mind as well. Also, I want to explain something to everyone that relates to partnership agreements to purchase a golf course in this case. And I've talked to several of you about this, but the city has to be very careful and has to follow a number of laws and ordinances and rules related to getting into any kind of arrangements or agreements with third parties, with other entities. And part of the reason for that is we have to protect the taxpayers' interests. We have to do what's in your best interest. So, for example, if we decide to come up with a decision to go forward and try to make an offer on a golf course, and we wanted to do that with a third party who might have additional funding to add to that, which is one of the scenarios that someone shared with me, we can't just, as a city, unilaterally do something like that. We have to follow what are called public-private partnership laws, or P3 laws. I'm not the expert on that, but I know enough to know that the reason those were put into place was to make sure that one local government doesn't get into arrangement with one private business or others, where those private businesses can then benefit financially. The taxpayers may not benefit, and you didn't do anything that was above board to make sure that it was a fair and competitive process. Why did you pick that company to benefit and get a good return on their investment versus other companies? So the short sort of summary of all that is to say that, and I will remain open to all kinds of scenarios, conversations, ideas about how to tackle this big issue, but I cannot just unilaterally, even council cannot unilaterally just enter into an agreement with an LLC that's formed, a business entity that comes into town. We have to do a competitive solicitation type process if we even got to that stage. And there's way more that we could cover on that, but I just wanted to put that as a sort of an overarching theme that needs to be, you should be aware of. So beyond the appraisal, you're going to hear me talk a little bit in a moment about some of the costs of operating a golf course. So there would be other things that you'd want to consider doing. You don't necessarily have to do what I put there about hiring a consultant, but we've got a couple of pretty well-known in the industry type of consultant firms. You might pay like $20,000 or so to hire them, but what they would do is they would look at the feasibility and make recommendations for how you could afford to operate the golf course. But that also would include things like, what's your purchase price for the golf course? What capital investment you need to make it viable again? And then what are you going to do to operate it? And we know there are some great firms out there that are involved in running golf courses, but these are all parts of the big picture, because to do our due diligence with, again, the taxpayers' dollars, we need to make sure we have a good plan that we can lay out for you and for the council that says this is actually something we could afford to do. The last thing on there, when I talk about the capital investment, this I believe is common knowledge for most folks, but I just want to make sure everyone is aware that my understanding is the irrigation system has been removed from the property, which means there's definitely a significant capital investment right there to restore the course, and there's going to be a lot of work to restore the greens and the course itself because of the irrigation being removed. So those are things we know today. There could be other things that we'd have to come across as we did our due diligence. So financially speaking, I wanted to make council aware of our potential funding sources if we were to go down a path to pursue making an offer for the golf course. As council is aware, but I'll share for the public in case you are not, we have a source of what are called impact fees. There are specific parks impact fees that folks who develop in a city pay into a particular bucket, as it were. And in our city, those impact fees are dedicated by zip code. So in our 32909 Parks Impact Fee Fund, we have about $5.3 million. That money is restricted for use to expand your parks and recreation type facilities. So you can build new facilities. That's what the developers pay into that funding for. You can build new parks, you can expand existing parks. You cannot use it to operate or maintain existing facilities. You can't use it for personnel. So it's really just about infrastructure, new facilities. So this would be one potential funding source. The other thing, though, to keep in mind on this is today it's 5.3 million. Obviously, it will grow in the future. But one of our discussions, one of our plans has been to look for a new regional park facility in the south part of the city. We don't have any real parks resources down there yet. So 32909 would be the zip code that would be pulled from. So that's just something for council's consideration in the future. And then you can see on my list, it's kind of short. There are not really, not that we're aware of right now, any significant funding sources from grants. So you'd really be looking at other typical financial structures like using undesignated general fund fund balance, which I'm not currently recommending, but just so you give you a sense of what that number looks like. And remember, this is above our minimum fund balance. It's above our stabilization fund. So above all of that, we have our extra, which is about $9 million right now. So just to give you a sense of that. And of course, one of my least favorite options is on there. It's the debt financing idea. Not my favorite, but I put it on there because it is something that obviously is a tool that could be used. And perhaps there are other ways to do this financially, but those are the things that are easily accessible to the city today that are funding sources that you could tap into to make a move like this. And lastly, I put on here again just the clarification that if there were any proposals to jointly purchase the golf course, that would require a significant vetting process. The city attorney and I would be having a lot of conversations, and we would be doing a very public process to solicit, if council gave us that direction, to solicit proposals from any interested firms to do some sort of a partnership purchase, which may or may not be a good idea. Anyway, just throwing that out there is one of the topics. And then into operating the golf course, staff has pulled quite a bit of data on, what it takes to operate golf courses. They've looked at local facilities. There are several people on our staff, including one of our deputy city managers, our finance director, and our recreation director, who all have a lot of experience with Brevard County and golf courses based on working there previously. The short story, the summary of what I can share is going to be sort of obvious, but it is sometimes they're run well and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they barely break even. Sometimes, and we've seen this quite a bit here locally, they get subsidized by general fund because they don't make enough to bring in. From what I've gathered, and we haven't spent a lot of time doing research on this, but there's enough data out there to show that there are some good management companies, especially here locally, who do a great job. And they do better, but still these municipal run golf courses oftentimes have to go back to general fund, whether it's for capital or just to make the ends meet at the end of the fiscal year. Doesn't mean that would be the case here if we took it on, but that's why we would do a financial feasibility study. Because some of the things you have to think about is when it is a public course, where are you going to set your rates? Because you're going to think of it as a publicly accessible course. So that's one thing. If we got into that level of scrutiny, are you going to view this as a typical recreation facility where there's always going to be a subsidy by the general fund? Are you going to have varying rates based on people's positions in life or other situations? These are things that typically come up when it's a public course. So these are all factors you'd have to look at ultimately. And of course, the point of all that is we'd be able to set rates and have enough participation, attendance, and income to actually cover both the ongoing operating costs, but also the capital needs, not only at the beginning, but over time. We also have obviously considered the cost to staff a golf course at the city level versus and manage it in-house versus outsourcing something like that. At this point, just based again on rough numbers we've looked at, I would recommend if we got to that point that we look seriously at outsourcing it. That's going to be a much, I think, simpler approach. But just like everything else, to do that and do that well in the interest of the taxpayers, that would be something we would have to do a procurement type solicitation for. We could not just pick, the local management company that we like because we've heard good things about them. We would actually do our due diligence on that as well. So the short story of all this is there's a lot of review we'd have to do financially to make sure that we put ourselves in a position that this could be the most viable golf course if we were to go down that path. And so just to sort of sum up, as I stated at the beginning, there is not currently an opportunity for the city to purchase the golf based on my conversations with the owner. However, what I would ask council to consider moving forward, because this is such an important piece of property, it's such an important amenity for our community, I would ask council to, at a minimum out of this workshop, give us direction to continue to have those conversations with the property owner. Because one thing I think there is potential to do, like I said at the beginning, is to, if we're talking, if we're trying to work together, if we're trying to find some way to meet the needs of the community while, understanding that the owner has needs as well, that if we can continue to have those conversations, perhaps we can come up with some solutions, and we at our in the city, we often meet with different types of groups who do different types of things. There are recreation type developers. I know we've talked here before about groups that we would love to have come to town, like Top Golf and others, right? But there are groups that maybe develop recreation type products that if it would be a good fit for the property owner and the residents, if we couldn't get a place to go back to the golf course, which ultimately I know is everyone's desire here, but if we could find a compromise, I would be willing to have staff continue to keep that open line of communication with the property owner, obviously with the residents, and see if there was something that we could ultimately put together that might be a compromise that we could live with. I don't know what that is yet, though, which is unfortunately the short story on where we're at. We also could perform some additional due diligence if council chose to direct us to do that. For example, like the appraisal, things like that. I don't know that I would say we're at that point just yet, but if you wanted us to do that, we certainly could look at that. And like I've said, I'm not going to reiterate it again, but just I think the theme for me on all this is we're not done yet. We want to keep working with you. We want to keep looking for solutions. So you're going to bring us ideas tonight. We want to hear them. We're open to that. And I don't want this to be, I don't want any of you to feel like this is the last conversation that we want to have on the topic, because we know it's not. We have a golf course that's sitting unused. We have a property owner who's contemplating what she's going to do with it, and we don't have that to share. We don't have an application to show you. And you all have, obviously your backyard has been completely changed, and I respect that. So just know that this for me is an opportunity to open some dialogue, to hear from you all, but we're not done. We will continue to talk through this and work through this with you. And that's really kind of the end of that, Mayor. So I'll see if you all have any questions for me. If you
have
want
any questions, Councilman Johnson?
Yes, yes, Mayor. Thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Suzanne. Thank you for everybody in the audience for being patient with us, because this has been something that's been in discussion for over a year now. So I appreciate that. And I will go on the record saying I was hesitant to have this workshop because I knew the funding sources that I was looking at, and that was the undesignated fund balance, which I don't want to touch, and the debt financing, which I don't want to touch either. But what I do see with the impact fees, that's a potential way we can go about it. But I also wanted to inquire, because the golf course can hold a tremendous amount of water. Have we looked at from the utilities department of public works, like regards to, like, I want to make it clear. I think the best way to get this done is a public-private partnership. But in doing so, I'm also looking at what funding sources or how we can help the city at the same token. So have we talked to, Mr. Little on that aspect, or?
I was going to ask the same question, but that's part of the financial analysis.
Yeah.
Reclamation water is what you're saying,
Yes,
how
sir.
we get, instead of doing the deep well injections. But carry on, man.
Yeah, I can give a partial answer to that, because some years ago, apparently there was some discussion about the potential to take reclaimed water and put it on the golf course. We're not currently set up to even have that capability at the plant in the south right now, like the South Regional plant that's down there off of Osmosis. It's a it's a water plant, so it provides water. We're building a wastewater plant, but we do not currently have reclaimed water anyway. So, but yeah, there are definitely places that do that. Actually, the Port Malabar Country Club, the golf course back then, reclaimed water was being produced and piped to that golf course from the North Regional plant. We just don't currently have that set up. Could it be a future capital investment in our site down there if we had a golf course in play and the city had a role in it? It's definitely a possibility. But we're years from being in that position specifically.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor? Felix? Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'm going to open up to the 12 speakers, Deputy Mayor. We'll go down the line. We'll get their thoughts, their ideas, because Madam Sherman, before we even start, thank you for your diligence in this and having conversations. And I do remember, thank you for your support on this, Councilman Johnson, because I remember the brother that, or the councilman that's currently in the hospital today, he was for this workshop, and I was very excited about that. So, that being said, again, Councilman Foster, you're in all our thoughts and prayers. But thank you so much, ma'am. You've done a great job. Thank you for communicating with the property owner. And on a continual basis, you kept that dialogue going. And I think we're at a point where that may need to continue at this point. So who's the first speaker, Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Philip Cochran.
Bill Corcoran, 1878 Winbrook. Oh, the clicker. Thank you. I would also like to thank Ms. Sherman for just another great job. She really makes this city work. I thank her for all of her work, not just on this. I'd like to thank the city council and the city workers that are giving up a night to be here with us. I know this is not a normally scheduled meeting, so I thank you, because you'd probably rather be doing something else. I would like to also thank Councilman Foster. He was the one that suggested this meeting, and I wish him well and pray for his recovery. And I'd also like to thank the red shirts who came tonight to let you guys know how important this is to us. Thank you. Thank you all. As we've seen before, everybody knows that it's the crown jewel of Palm Bay as it existed until Father's Day. We, the citizens of Palm Bay and Bayside Lakes, feel as though we have lost something valuable, something that was the centerpiece of our community. This golf club drew us to Palm Bay. Many of us decided to live in Bayside Lakes because of the golf course, fine reputation. It was well-maintained facility, and the golfing community lifestyle it represented was what we were looking for. The golf course closed on the 19th of June. It is disheartening to see how quickly the crown jewel was destroyed by an optimistic LLC with a desire to turn a quick buck in full disregard to the impacts to the Bayside Lakes community, our neighbors, and our city as a whole. A little background information, Ms. Sherman, I'm sorry, this is a little redundant. On December 13th, it was purchased for $2.1 million. The new comprehensive plan Vision 2045 is expected to be approved sometime soon. I don't know if that date is still being held with some of the things we've had happen in the city recently, but at one time it was supposed to be April 6th. And the second reading was supposed to be on April 6th. I don't know if we had a first reading yet or not. So the future land use map remains the same at 0.2 unit per 5 acres, per acre, and 1 unit per 5 acres. A highly engaged citizen group is fighting for acquisition, remediation, and reopening the golf club at Bayside Lakes. We appreciate the City Council's engagement in crafting and implementing a successful reopening, if we can do it. The advantages is it's a Palmer design. The Arnold Palmer Group is interested in helping the business recover. All the buildings are still available and viable. The artesian wells are still active. Residents and City Council fully support the reopening, I believe. We've spoken to many of you. 4 buyers have been identified wanting to buy, rehabilitate, and reopen the course at a reasonable price. The obstacles to that is there's a case opened with Upland Ventures. Court papers have recently been filed, and that has not been cleared up yet. The golf course needs to be repaired, including greens, fairways, rough bunkers, and tees need to be reseeded. The irrigation system, as Ms. Sherman mentioned. The bridges need to be repaired and inspected for safety. All mowing equipment will need to be replaced. Golf carts will need to be leased. And as she said, the staff needs to be hired and trained. This is the input that citizens provided with a comprehensive plan, Vision 2045, and you'll notice the big green dot in the middle of that map is where the majors is. It's a very strong indication that people want it to remain as some kind of recreational facility or green space. So everybody in this room, I think, gave input there. And this is, again, a lot of red shirts supporting the golf course and wanting it to reopen. And I don't know how many people are in this room, but I'm sure we have more than 250 people because they are moving into the other room as we speak. Okay, I'm not going to beat this too much. I just wanted to list the amenities that some surrounding communities have. Melbourne has a zoo, a performing arts center. They have a sports complex. They have Wickham Park. They have a charming downtown area, 8 golf facilities, 3 warehouse clubs, and many great restaurants. Unfortunately, at Palm Bay, we have Turkey Creek, and we have a problem in the compound. So I copied and pasted something from the website, our Palm Bay website, and it lists 2 public golf courses, public-private courses. I think we need to amend that as we have done right now. I want to thank the Recreation Department for sponsoring a survey. Many of us put in our request to have some golf activities here in the city. And here's a list of the facilities that are in Melbourne, and unfortunately, we don't have any here in Palm Bay. There was something scheduled for Emerald Lakes, but I guess that didn't happen, and I'm wondering about that, why that didn't happen. So,
Thank you.
okay,
I do have a question for you. You mentioned 4 buyers,
yes,
that you had a
Mhm.
collaboration of 4 buyers.
Yeah, they
And,
are.
and
They are.
how did you progress?
Okay, so they're interested in buying the course at a reasonable price.
Yes, sir. Did you
Okay.
form an LLC? Was there finances discussed?
They have all
What,
spoken. They
was
have,
it just ideas
no, they have all spoken to the current owner. And
individually or
yes,
as collectively?
yes, individually. And so
All right, thank you, sir.
I have phone numbers for them.
Thank you, sir.
And just to clear one thing up, there was an official offer made, okay, verbally, and Councilman Johnson was at that meeting on June 24th, and it was rejected on July 1st.
June 24th, 2022.
Yes.
And has that offer been provided again? Because we're talking, several months later. Has
Yeah.
that offer been
Well-
offered again?
We have other speakers that may want to speak to that, so.
Okay.
All right.
So to your knowledge,
There has nothing been done in writing, okay?
okay.
And-
All right,
But
thank
there
you.
was that verbal offer at that meeting, and as I said, we can assume it was official because we had city council there, and
Yes, sir, but we're talking about June 2022. I wanted to ask if there was something
well,
that was
remember,
offered lately.
we we scrambled to get a committee together for that meeting on June 24th because the golf course was still viable at that point, and that's why.
I see
and
what
that-
your point
and
is.
that number reflected the condition of the course
It
at
was
the time.
before all the irrigation system was taken out. All right.
Exactly. We were
Okay.
trying to save the course at that time.
Copy.
And I thank
Thank you.
then Deputy Mayor Johnson for trying to help us.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Alvaro de la Puente. Followed by Marie Corcoran.
I had a PowerPoint. Well, while he gets it loaded, just want to say good evening, Mayor, Councils.
Well,
Deputy
you
Mayor.
don't have to start your time
Oh,
until he gets it
okay.
up and running. I don't want to.
It's all right. You can
Are
start.
you
my
good
time.
now?
It's just an intro.
Did you get it, sir?
Yes,
Mr.
that's it.
Robinson?
Thank you.
All right. Carry on, sir.
So I want to echo Phil's comments on thanking each one of you that are present here, and councilman that's in the hospital. But I'm going to go a little bit more in what Phil said about talking about other cities. I did pull 4 random cities across Central Florida with similar size in residents. So the first one is the city of Melbourne with 85,000 residents. The second one we're going to go over is Kissimmee with 80,000, Lakeland with 115,000, which is more comparable to Palm Bay, and obviously Palm Bay with 122,000 per the last census. So this is just a screenshot of the Golf Pass website, which is what most golfers would use when they're traveling, when they want to review golf courses. What we see here in Melbourne, you have 6. If you count Vieira, there will be a couple more. So that's about 14,000 residents per golf course. Then moving on to Kissimmee, that's 80,000. It's about 8,000 residents per golf course when you count all of them that are there, which is about 10. Moving on to Lakeland, which is another landlocked city, and they have 115,000 residents, and they have about 7,000 residents per golf course. And of course, then we move on to Palm Bay. So they still list, for whatever reason, they haven't taken those 2 off, but as we all know, they're closed, and we have 120,000 residents per nothing. So now we're gonna move on, and I don't just want to make this about golf. When we're talking about the city, we want to bring in tourism. We want to bring in outdoor recreation, right? So, and just when anybody's traveling, when anybody's visiting, you go to websites like TripAdvisor. So I just took a couple of snapshots of TripAdvisor, right? When you're looking at Melbourne, you like Phil said, you have the zoo, you have the beaches out downtown, museums, things like that. The King Center. Kissimmee it's known for some theme parks, for again more nature, war museums, things like that. Lakeland, again, some pretty nice outdoor parks, downtown area, sports complexes, theme parks, and then in Palm Bay we have Turkey Creek. Valkyria Gardens is number 2, even though it's not really Palm Bay, and then the rest are pretty much city parks and the aquatic center. Not demeaning anything, but if we're trying to be known for the image of the city, what we bring in, how we bring people in. Obviously, I'm not a golfer, but I do see the importance of having a golf course. There's no major city in Florida without one, and I just cherry picked 4 random cities in Central Florida, and you can see how many golf courses they have. But also these just miscellaneous recreation, outdoor things that you can do in the city. The city has the compound, right? And we talk about the compound. We have several acres, hundreds of acres that belong to the city. I understand there's many parcels within that are going to be a challenge. And I understand there was a workshop not too long ago. But we need to be known for something. We need to stop having the residents just everybody go north, right? We all go north to Melbourne for dining, for recreation, for shopping, for whatever you want to call it. And how about, in addition to the golf course, the city can own or co-own things in the compound, like off-road vehicle tracks, paintball courses, RC plane tracks, campgrounds, jet skiing, fishing. I mean, there's so many things that other cities have in their either public parks or we have golf courses up north, not too far from here, that are co-owned. I think this is the time for this council and the city to turn the page to be known not just of being a high density residential area. It's just everybody knows Palm Bay for just having lots and not too much industrial, not too much commercial, not too much recreational. But let's try to build something on here. And a lot of us are ready to partner financially with the city, but we need the go ahead, and we need and I appreciate everybody's efforts here in starting this up, but let's turn the page and let's improve the city. We all want to make it better here. And again, I really appreciate your time, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Marie Corcoran.
Hi, Marie Corcoran, Winbrook Drive. When I was at the city hall recently, I noticed your vision statement displayed, but then I noticed the middle of it. It said continuously enjoy recreational and entertainment amenities. And I'm thinking, Palm Bay? But, hopefully we'll get there. If Palm Bay is going to rise above the reputation of being a lower end, really need to partner and attract high-end commercial business and prioritize the recreational activities. We do have Turkey Creek Preserve, Fred Poppy Park, Castaway Cove, and we had a golf course. We do have a lot of houses that are kind of like squished together, as you see in that lower left-hand picture, but and people are buying them, but that's because that's all that's being offered. I would like to challenge the council to challenge developers to think outside the box and increase the maybe square footage of the homes or how close they are to give some diversity to the city. If the only way Palm Bay is going to be able to attract people from other local cities, such as Alvaro and Phil had said, we're going to have to give people a place to go. If you look at the map, everybody's going north from Palm Bay. Even the citizens of Palm Bay leave our city for entertainment and recreation. You have Wickham Park, golfing, the King Center, malls, and higher-end restaurants all outside of Palm Bay. Nobody's spending their tax dollars here, so we're missing out on a big opportunity to bring tax dollars into our city. Instead, we're getting a high traffic volume and congestion. it appears that a lot of what we're attracting are car washes, Dollar General stores, which are like almost on every corner now, storage units, auto parts stores, and nail salons. Well, I'm not saying these are bad things because they do serve a purpose, but that is not going to attract STEM families, nor will it improve our reputation. If you take a look, some of Melbourne's, some of the corporate facilities, they're all in Melbourne. We need to remarket and transform the city. Sorry. And the golf club is a place to start. If you take a look at the comprehensive plan workshop number 2, all the green dots, that was a desire, a strong desire for green space and recreation. Instead, we are left with beer cans discarded off the side of the cart path near the 6th tee and weeds by the 5th tee. And those are 2 code compliance issues that I sent to code compliance this afternoon. We could do better. I would like to have everybody partner together and make this the greatest city that we've ever seen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie Ramsey, followed by Mr. Tim Bland.
Hello, everybody. And again, thank you all for doing what you do. One of my favorite songs is Imagine by John Lennon. And this meeting tonight is about imagining. Imagine that our city's name was Palm Beach instead of Bombay. What would we see when we exited I-95 to this beautiful city? Would we see maintained and manicured Palm Bay signs greeting its visitors with a sign that says, "Welcome to our Arnold Palmer Golf Course City"? Or would we see a filthy underpass and trash-laden stretches of grass and unmaintained cookie-cutter businesses? Imagine a Palm Beach vibe. I've been in 50 states and 98 countries of the world, and we need greater expectations for our city. Imagining, planning, and a population that cares. Even our Bayside Lakes area needs a good disciplining. My neighbor Laura walks every day in the Bayside Lakes area, picks up bundles of trash. I see people throwing trash out of their cars at least twice a week. We don't have enough police here to even prevent the murders in the compound, let alone prevent littering. I feel there's nothing in Palm Bay. It's a transient community. Young people who buy houses here because they're cheap, and as soon as they can, they move on to other communities. Believe it or not, in another city where I lived, 2 of my neighbors had lived in Palm Bay because it was inexpensive housing. We need to be known for something better than that. Crime's scary, i.e. the Christmas Day murders, and we seniors fear that there'll be no fire departments who will answer our calls. Why should we stay? Hope. Hope. I believe this plan you're trying to put in place will be a step in the right direction. But if we do not provide the amenities that this community needs very soon, there will be no turning it around. We're halfway to destruction. We can look forward with adding amenities to this community, or we can let it fall apart. In my tour of duty in the last 2 years of being here in Palm Bay, I haven't seen very much to encourage me to stay. If there's no pride and no amenities in a community, it cannot be a community. We are diverse, we're large, and we're in Florida. We can turn it around. Let's clean up our act. Let's save our young people and provide amenities to keep them busy. Imagine. We're a community that needs to be watchful guardians. We need to have a beautiful golf course. Why do you suppose the Del Webb community just started in Melbourne? They have golf courses. They're not right on the golf course, but they have access to the golf courses of Melbourne. And if you know about Del Webb communities, they're a higher level of communities for 55 and over. I would encourage you folks to look into something like that. If we can't use this current one, let's start something else. Let's imagine us being a United Nations, making a beautiful place to live, because we are diverse, we are large, and we're in Florida. And as John Lennon said, they say I'm a dreamer. I hope I'm not the only one.
Mr. Bland?
Good evening, Council and staff. Appreciate your time tonight. It's very good that you have this special meeting, which is a one subject meeting on a recreational activity in the city of Palm Bay. Tim Bland, 1992 Winbrook Drive. I live actually on the first green of the Majors golf course. I think I said it at the last meeting. My dream after 50 years of working was to retire on a golf course in a house with a swimming pool. And I got that. So I won, right? Now, 2 years later, golf course closes. I still got the pool though. So, you know, there's a lot of good ideas out there regarding the property. There's an unreasonable seller, or maybe not a seller, as I heard on the Fox 35 newscast. The property owner said that it's not for sale, and she had no comment. But, you know, many in the community here believe that the golf course can be revitalized, and expanded upon to include a lot more activities for the residents of Palm Bay and surrounding residents of Brevard County, such as, we heard tonight, pickleball. How about miniature golf? How about youth programs? Boy, what's going on with our youth today in this city? We've seen a lot of bad things. We'd like to see more good things. I have a lot of pictures on my phone of the youth tournaments on the golf course. Here we got the teenagers carrying their golf bag, playing in a tournament at the Majors golf course, hoping to make it to state and win state. You know, it's just sad not to see that anymore. And I think, you know, with no golf courses here in Palm Bay, you all need to seriously consider acquiring the property and joining with some public entities or county entities or state entities to fund this, open it, fix it up, and have back to the jewel of Bayside Lakes and Palm Bay. Now, I will also say that, some of these, activities for the youngsters in our community, get them off the streets, get them out of the compound, and get them over here hitting golf balls, hitting baseballs, doing putt-putt. Teach them how to pick a ball. I don't know how to pick a ball. I got a bad knee, so I'd love to, but I can't physically. So please, $10 million is not the dollar amount. That's unreasonable request from the property owner. Unreasonable request. She bought it for 2.1. I don't know what the number is. I think in Suzanne's presentation, she thought about appraisal. 200 of the 800 sprinkler heads are gone. So a complete redo of the sprinkler system, just like the Habitat is doing right now, is $1.6 million. So $10 million is just unreasonable, and it's a crazy, crazy number. And I hope both those folks are watching this presentation tonight. So lastly, I'd like to say, prayers for Councilman Foster. I hope he gets better, gets well, gets back here and sits in his chair and helps the city move forward. Thank you very much.
Mr. Robert Stice, followed by Ms. Florida Wolbert.
Robert Stice, 1796 Winbrook Drive. Council, thank you. You guys and gals have been working with us. And I tip my hat to you, literally. Here's my hat. Thank you so much for listening to us and working with us. I look at this a little differently. Anytime I was interviewing for a job, I always put down the pros and the cons. One of the first things I've been saying for the last 6 months anyway is this 200 acres is the Central Park of Palm Bay. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Okay. Negative part is you put 367 homes in an area that's already dangerous. That's why we're working on the road outside Summerfield. Thank you for that, Suzanne. You perpetuate the problem. You've cemented a bedroom community. And not only that, you've destroyed Bayside Lakes. We're like that barrel is already at capacity right now. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. On the other side of it, to me, I play golf enough to be horrible at it. However, I look at this as a quality of life issue. It is a quality of life issue. You throw these houses in here, okay, it affects everything. Traffic, schools, healthcare, and the list goes on and on and on. However, you put a golf course in there, okay, and now you can expect, at least I would, some of the military businesses in there to put an annex just south of the golf course. What a perfect place would be to grow, and would grow commercial property. Bayside Lakes is like like this giant bowl of houses that's floating, bad word in Florida, at maximum capacity right now. Okay? Right now we're dealing with suburban congestion. I know it sounds like an oxymoron. That's what we're dealing with. When you got to wait 5 minutes to make a right-hand turn coming out of Summerfield, you got an issue here. Okay? So, what does a golf course mean to tourism? When we started working out, when we moved down here almost 6 years ago, we started working out at the clubhouse. There was a lot of Canucks coming down here from Florida. Is there any way we can get numbers on that, Suzanne, as far as what that means to Palm Bay? It's going to put us back on the map. Developing that, putting in 367 homes kills it. Just like you voted down for that area that was in the Heritage Parkway, 1,200 homes. You had nothing else going in there. If we want to get out of that bedroom community, you got to get out of the box. Okay, so how do we do that? The professional golf course does put Palm Bay on the map, as Avero stated. Okay, What else are you going to do? It's got to start with that. You already have it. Okay, it's in there somewhere. The other side of that, if I let my house go for 2 years, the price doesn't go up. Okay, so I think we need to look at what this actually appraises for. You know, I remember meeting Heather for the first time and partnering with her. I don't fault her on this. It's her property. She has a right to make a profit on that. I remember at the end of the meeting, you know, we sat down and prayed together. I still pray for her. God gives her wisdom to make the right decision on this. This has always been a quality of life issue for me. Please take this in consideration. What are you going to do about it? If you're dropping $10 million or whatever that price is, what do we stand to make going forward? People continue to come down here in droves from Illinois, New York, New Jersey, okay, Boston, California. They're coming. You're going to have that. You're going to have the impact fees. Take the time to do the right thing in this particular case. Do what's right for your constituents. Do what's right for your fellow neighbors. Thank you.
Order.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and everyone that is represented. My name is Minister Florida Hobart. I live at 2322 Planter Ridge Court, Southeast Palm Bay. I am an encourager. I try to encourage people to look for the best that they possibly can have. I stand on the Word of God, and one of the reasons that I came here to Palm Bay was for abundant life. I had been in the hospital, and they wasn't real sure that I was going to make it, but God had a different plan for me. He brought me here. My son says, "Mom, move to Florida." I'm like, "No." He says, "Move to Florida." I'm like, "No." I said, "Okay, I'm moving to Florida." So I'm here in Florida. That's my name. I love it here. I love it being here in Palm Bay. I haven't played golf yet because I was still in recovery. I learned how to play golf playing softball, because if they pitched something to me across the plate, it was going over the fence. So they started rolling the ball on the ground. So I decided to show them that even rolling the ball on the ground wasn't going to do them any good. It still went across the fence. I was looking forward to getting the opportunity to play golf here, and I'm still looking forward to it. This is the reason why I came to Florida. There is a movement going on in Florida. People are moving here because there is freedom in this state. That is not going on in many other states, and they're not drawing people like they're coming here. People are coming here because this was pronounced to be, the best city in the world? In the world. I'm expanding it, in the world, okay? We want this city to be looked upon as a place that people want to come and stay. Not just come and play, but come and stay. They want to build their lives here. They want to raise their children here. And we would love to have our golf course back. We would love to have the place that's called the Crown Jewel. We need a jewel in our crown because we are the best city in the world. In the world. That's an imagination, some might say, but I believe the best city in the world. This is one of the scriptures that I stood on, and I continue. "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." 3 John verses 1 and 2. We came here to prosper. All of us working together, we will prosper. One of the things I'd like to say, we love our neighborhood and our community. We love our families. I know this has been said before. When you sign a contract, be responsible for the commitment that you make. Don't undermine your family. Do not undermine your family. I'm not sure what somebody didn't give her the whole picture, because if she was really concerned about this neighborhood, she wouldn't be doing us the way that she's doing us now. You can't get anything done by allowing your property to fall apart, by allowing things to go to pot. We don't want things to fall apart. We want them to come together. We as a community, and as we pray for Councilman Foster, we believe that he is healed, delivered, set free, made whole and complete in Christ. We thank you, God, that you are working on his behalf, that your mighty right hand is upon him to do him good. I pray for the city council. I pray for us all to have wisdom and understanding in the things that we do, so that we will be able to live together and see this city expand and see this city grow. And yes, we would love to have our golf course back. And we believe that it is possible to get that done if we all stand together, pray together, believe God for it. We're not speaking any ill towards the owner. We're just going to pray God give her wisdom, give her strength, and give her understanding to know that it's to her best interest to help us.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert Clark, followed by Matt Ross.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Bob Clark. I live at 882 Morning Cove Circle. I live next to what I am now calling compound number 2. My speech is on what nuisance she has caused the living conditions where I live. My house is on a path that comes from the power lines, and we are getting a huge amount of four-wheelers and trail bikes coming from that direction. They come full throttle onto the course and use it as a racetrack and jumping over hills. In addition, we also have ATV-type golf carts and electric bikes, trail bikes, and beach buggies. Yes, a beach buggy was on that golf course. And also, my neighbors, and I think it's the new developments that's behind us that Horton built, we have seen a huge increase in golf carts and people walking. It's on Saturday and Sunday, it is a true hazard. These include ATVs with 3 to 4 kids riding on the back and seeing how fast and high they can jump over hills. The owner of the old golf course have put lives in play, as there is no on-site person to stop this onslaught. The owner has now created a nuisance and very unsafe atmosphere on this property. It was mentioned what Habitat is doing over on their property, on their golf course, about putting in new underground water supply. A nonprofit runs Habitat, and I think the gentleman said it's $1.6 million that they're paying. Next year, they're spending over $1 million at the other course. When they finish that, they're spending another $1 million over at the other course. Nonprofit at Habitat is making money that they can afford to do what they're doing. There's no reason why a nonprofit with the city's help can't come in here and make the city money. It can be a nonprofit or not a nonprofit. It's up to the city council to look at bringing another company in to help them run this. And I suggest you look at the Golf Bavard, which is running Habitat. They're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Matt Ross.
I'm Matt Russ, 2130 Winbrook. I apologize for having to have handouts. I missed the 2 o'clock deadline for getting information to Brian. So anyhow, I have two things that I want to discuss. The first is the need to realize that the city needs to really control this piece of land. And if for no other reasons, we've heard recreational needs and whatnot.
Get
The
closer
way
to
I
the
look
mic.
at it and what
Russ?
I'm real concerned about.
Yeah, get closer to the mic. or
Okay.
Bring up the lectern. There's an electrical button there, sir. There you go.
All right. Thank you. But what my main concern is for the city to be able to control that property for flood control. When the city was laid out and you approved the road system for the various HOAs, the storm drains for those streets flow into retention ponds. That's the way it's controlled. Many of those retention ponds are on the golf course. And then when, like particularly on the south side, they're all connected, okay? And the overflow ends up in the Tillman Canal. But it's very essential for you guys to be thinking of that piece of property as a sink for holding the water in a storm and a sponge at all other times when in the rainy season. Because otherwise you're going to have a lot of runoff. So I think if you're looking for a reason, you can control it with planning and zoning, but the real way to control it is if you own it. Okay. The second item is that dreams are possible. And we've heard a few comments this evening. What I handed out to you is a picture of such a dream that took place in Kingsport, Tennessee. Now, Mary Lou and I ended up moving down here from there. And we were living in Kingsport during the time that that was built. But it is a golf course, convention center, hotel, and events planning. That city at the time had 50,000 people in it. And they went into a public-private deal where the company I worked for was Eastman Chemical, and they provided the land and they provided funds to build a hotel. And the city ended up coming up with funds to build a convention center, and they turned the operation and the golf course. They run the golf course, and they turned the whole contract over to operate it to Marriott. And that has turned into one of the big success stories for Marriott. And the way they did it was they attempted in a vision deal like what we've been going through, okay? And they came up with this Kingsport Tomorrow type thing, very similar to our Vision 2045, okay? The original proposal was a 2% tax on restaurant meals, and that did not fly. But after getting more of the people involved, they instituted a 1/4% sales tax, and that passed on a 2-to-1 basis. And that turned enough money to be able to pull this off. Now, to give you some idea, since Meadowview opened in 1996, the surrounding property has witnessed an incredible growth, with property values soaring from basically $3 million to $100 million. In total, Meadowview makes an annual economic impact of more than $25 million in Kingsport. The conference, resort, and convention center collected $23 million in hotel taxes in the first 20 years. with 16.6 million going to the Visitors Bureau, 3.7 going to the city's, to the Visitor Enhancement Program Fund, and 3.7 million to the city's general fund. So with a little visioning, with a little thinking, with some cooperation, you got L3 Harris here. Eastman was smaller than L3 Harris at the time. So, I mean, you can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jen Orr. Jen Orr.
Good evening. A little help here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Janet Orr. I've had a home at 2084 Winbrook Drive for 14 years. I do not play golf, but I do have some knowledge of business and the business of golf. The city accepted its ITS commissioned Economic Development Strategic Plan on February 2nd of this year. It's available on your website. It confirms years out of control, poorly planned residential development, seriously absent commercial and retail entities, and a population that needs greater education. There is little assimilation between growing race, economic, and educational divides. No one reading this study would be compelled to move to or bring a business to Palm Bay. This study does lay the groundwork for the city to step up its game, to start to deal. You'll need to spend some money to attract business and raise the bar for livability, and to halt the endless numbing residential development. A document history of the majors presents June 1998, the lease agreement, development and management between City of Palm Bay and JTH Development, when the city sold the property, stating the course had to be an Arnold Palmer signature course. In 1998, the city knew the value and knew about golf. The agreement also stated the use of the golf course was to include students and high schools for public use, for vocational education and training, for residents' use, and for fundraising activities. The city tied the commercial use of the golf course to provide for and benefit the community of Palm Bay, which they served. The city blew it. They did not know to renew these terms in 2013 as required by the agreement. They lost all provisions. The challenges for these very same provisions are much greater in 2023, but there's no source, no property for delivery, and no replacement for anything like the majors. For 8 years, I have been with the Guardian Ad Litem program, 18th Circuit here, out of the court, in increasing cases in Palm Bay for child abuse and neglect, increasing at a level that is unacceptable. The public deserves better. The City of Palm Bay's Arnold Palmer Golf Course is a better start than anything we have on the books now. It takes years to build a name for anything, and we need lifting up now with a solid name, a solid enterprise. You have the course sitting right here. Bring on professional management, others to and citizens, county, state, whatever you need, including partners. I am majors. The possibilities are endless. Businesses will come to us. We have a responsibility to provide for our youth with something to grow from, something to share, something of value to call their own. I think Billy Horschel would agree. As Arnold Palmer stated, your hometown is not where you are from, it's who you are. Thank you for this forum and for your time and efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Orr.
My name is Ken Orr. I live at 2084 Winbrook Drive. I'm mainly here to talk about negotiating process and what I see missing. Been negotiating deals for over 50 years. I've been involved in deals of anywhere from 100 million to almost $1 billion. The one thing I know for absolute certainty is you need leverage. City is not using its leverage. You have a tax rate. It appears from the documents that originally had the Arnold Palmer Golf Course built that there were tax advantages given to that property. The property right now, without appraisal, is worth $10 million, $10 million not offered, but stated as the price, and some number as a bid. I would suggest that you use until you get an appraisal, and I believe the market is a better appraisal than any appraiser. I suggest that you look at those numbers and apply the proper tax rate and present the owner with the bill. I also would have suggested that a eminent domain filing be made. I am unaware of any statute or any case law that stops eminent domain from being used in acquisition of a golf course. If city's council can provide me with the case law or the statute, I would greatly appreciate it. But I do know that eminent domain has been used for casinos, for shopping centers, and medical facilities. It is not limited to roads. The other thing, a gentleman spoke of the problems with the golf course not being attended to. And that is a serious problem. One night in last month, I had a large vehicle heading straight for my house. I didn't know what it was doing there. And so I have a very big dog. I let my dog out, and all of a sudden, it did a U-turn and straight out off the property. Cannot have an open space like that, which is an attractive nuisance. One, the people from the community who are using that golf course for their own recreation at the current time are doing something that is illegal, from what I understand. You have to stop doing that. And you have to inform the owner that she has to provide some means of securing the property because it is, as the previous gentleman said, an attractive nuisance. I'm more than happy to help with any of the business side of securing the golf course or in negotiations. But everything else that everyone has said here tonight is absolutely true. I only have one thing to add. I've been in this community for 14 years, and that no thing in this community that has been done has made my life better. And it's the purpose of government to make all of our lives better, not worse. Eliminating that golf course is going to make I'm almost certain, everyone in this room's life worse. You're responsible to the citizens, not to anything else, not to making money, not to developing property. You have to start making life better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, this concludes the public comment.
Okay, that concludes the 12 speakers?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to afford an opportunity for the public to speak for 3 minutes. Anyone else wish to speak? See, then step up, ma'am. 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Natalie Dewey. I live at 1884 Winbrook in Palm Bay here. I've been here about 1.5 years. I live in Summerfield and Bayside Lakes. One of the things that attracted us was the golf course, and my property does back up to some of the golf course land. So we also were told by a realtor that there was going to be a downtown here with like a little river walk or something like that. That was our fault for not researching it more, but we still have time to have a little downtown here. But one of my big concerns here is since the owner has closed the course, not only was it just not looking very well, but recently in the past month and a half, the ATV traffic has increased tremendously. It happens almost 2 to 3 times a week just in my backyard. And it's almost like it's a game for them. They're just going as fast as they can up one way and coming back down. We even had people on motorcycles driving through our properties to gain access to maybe the canal to go over to another development. What I'm concerned about is we're already known nationally because our compound murder that happened in December was on national news. So we're not only known for one compound that attracts a lot of activity, illegal activity, because really nothing should be going on out there. It's all, privately owned property. I do not want that happening in my backyard. And if it continues, it's going to be known by the news, and nobody's going to want to keep or do business here or come and move here. So we certainly don't want to be known for 2 compounds. So I would like to see if we can ask the owner if she could put some type of security on that property. I know it's not going to be full-time, it's a lot of acres, but at least some type of patrol. And the city shouldn't be paying for that. We shouldn't be calling you or the police department to come out to get somebody off of the property. She should be tackling that and paying the bill. Because I know that if it doesn't stop, somebody's going to get hurt out there. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? 3 minutes. So I'd like to address this last speaker, ma'am. The very first thing is, even though they want them to secure the property owner, maybe we could have an open trespass if that's possible, and if the owner could give our police department that opportunity, because it is a public safety issue. So if we could address that. That being said, no one else wishes to speak. So now this is going to go on the council, and I think I'm going to start off, gentlemen. I want to take us back to the very beginning. The property does not belong to the city. And what's important to me is that I've been here 35 years. So I've been here before the Majors Golf Course. And I've been here after the Majors Golf Course. And it is so true that Arnold Palmer will never design another golf course. And what we have here is the treasure in our community. A 190.56 acres of the 18-hole course. Now I want us to go to this place where, council, you'll know You know how I vote. City manager knows how I vote. I have a history in voting. This existing land use is rural single families, and the density is 1 per 5 acres. Now, most of you know, based on my voting record, I will not deviate from that. There is a multifamily residential component to this that's over 6.5 acres, where you could put multifamily residential. There's an opportunity there, I think, for partnership with the owner. But that being said, the golf course is a jewel in our community. Is there an opportunity for us to continue that dialogue with our city manager? I was hoping to hear from the residents today that they had a conglomerate, a group of investors. That was my hope. Over the last several months, that was what was told to us time and time again. I did not hear that today. I was hoping to hear, we have a plan and we're going to approach the owner of this property. The owner of the property owns that property. What I'd like council to do, and moving forward, because the last speaker really piqued my interest. Although he was talking about property, the property appraiser's duties, and including that appraised value, that doesn't fall on the city. That falls on the Brevard County property appraiser, and they levy the taxes, right? So that being said, he really piqued my interest with something. His negotiation skills and trying to work something out with the owner. And so with that being said, I wanted to ask our city attorney, in lieu of if we move forward, ma'am, with giving the city manager direction on continuing that negotiation process, would it behoove us as a city to protect the interests of the city, to have outside counsel, perhaps outside counsel that has the experience in dealing with this? I don't think this is an isolated case in our state or our nation. What are your thoughts about that, Ms. Smith? Are you comfortable with taking this on, or do you think that we should consider someone that may be an expert in this arena legally?
Sir, certainly part of my duties and part of my contract, the ability to contract with outside counsel and have an expert that is retained by the city, who is one of, I believe, only 2 people that is triple board certified. His 3 areas of board certification, which he is an expert in, include real property, construction law, and business litigation. So I have the resources. No one is going to compel someone to sell. It is not about lack of resources. It's because she does not want to sell, and we cannot compel her to sell. Certainly, if the city manager ever needed any assistance in negotiating a contract, putting the language together, I've worked with Ms. Sherman for years. Her entire time I've been the city attorney. That is not the issue. Our issue is not that we can't get a contract or no one can negotiate with her. The issue is she is not seeking to negotiate with us.
At all.
And that's not going to change by us having a different attorney. Certainly, if there was something where there was a contract or there were certain issues or terms that we were needing to resolve, I would be able to work with our outside counsel, and I could do that without direction of counsel, because counsel has already provided that direction and the authorization in my contract.
Okay, that's good to hear, ma'am. That was a big concern of what I was saying. So, and I'll toss it over to the rest of council. But before I do, I believe that we should move forward in trying to come to a place where we speak with the business owner and see if there's a plan, because right now she's got, what's intriguing is, and I know that a lot was mentioned about, return on your investment. So the multifamily residential has a unique opportunity where she could have return on investment, correct? However, the piece where the 190.56 acres, the golf course and the clubhouse, to include the clubhouse, is of particular interest for me to keep within our city a golf course. And I say that because this city will be much better with the Majors golf course than without it. And I say that based on my experience as a 35-year resident, seeing it before and seeing the fruits of it after. I realize that there's some challenges. I realize that we need to work together and see, but I think if we give the opportunity to see if we can give the city manager, and also keeping in mind that our city attorney's already spoken, she has resources for that legality and expert attorneys that can be pulled in on a dime, so to speak. So that's where I'm at, gentlemen. I think our city's much better, in a much better posture, much better place when it was a functioning Majors golf course. And again, I think there's got to be a lot said when you say that Arnold Palmer ain't going to design another golf course anywhere in this world. And we have that here in Palm Bay. So I'm going to let Councilman Johnson weigh in, and then you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Madam Sherman, have we had any official proposal in regards to a partnership?
No, the city's not received anything.
Okay, because like you, Mayor, I was hoping to hear of some type of, partnership proposal being brought to us, because as you can see, impact fees, Part 32909 impact fees, 5.3 million. That's not going to cover it. So that's my thing, Mayor. I want to make sure like we make it clear to everybody. It's going to take a collective effort from everybody. Whether it's forming an LLC or HOAs or something, it's going to take effort from both the city and from others, because we can't do it by ourselves.
Councilman Johnson, if I can weigh in with that, that's why I mentioned that 6.57 acres. If you just submit to the 190 acres, if she splits that up where we could just work on that, then that automatically could bring that price down, because she could make a huge return on investment. Of course, there's a lot of what ifs. What if zoning, it's general use, what is? But she has a higher probability of getting that multifamily residential as part of the, because she can get that done. She's got 6.5 acres there. And it can include commercial. It could, there's a huge opportunity for her at that point.
Yes, sir. And no, and I'm with you on that. My only thing is we're giving the city manager direction to move forward on something, and right now we're by ourselves on it. So, we'll be moving forward when we don't have enough, capital to move forward on anything. So that's my main thing. That's why I wanted to ask her if she's heard of anything. So I'm hoping that whether it's in this audience or y'all have a contact or connect, that we can make something happen and come together on this. And make something like this is the picture that right here. And as soon as you gave it to me, sir, I started looking it up, and this is beautiful. Like this, I can see us making something like this happen. The clubhouse right now is only one story, but with what we did with the revisioning of Palm Bay, it can be multiple stories. It could be a hotel. It could be conference center, or we have several other entities and developers in the city that've been doing a great job, like Adelon and several others, so that is a possibility, so, but it's going to take a group effort. So that's my thing, Mayor. Where do we go from here? I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I'm not sure, but I know it's going to take a collaborative effort. So.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Deputy Mayor Felix.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Let me start to say, Mayor, I completely agree with you. The golf course must remain as a golf course, right? Let me start with that. I think it's just so critical. It's so crucial for our community it's surely that's what make it's a big part of what makes Palm Bay Palm Bay. I remember when I first moved here, in the early 2000s, and one of the proud moment for me when I have visitors coming to town, I would take them to Bayside. This is what's in my backyard. So it's important for us to maintain that. How do we get there? That's obviously $1 million question, right? um, in terms of direction, gentlemen, what I would say, the conversation must continue. Right? Engaging the owner. Obviously, we cannot force her into selling if she's not quite there yet. I would hope she gets there soon. One of my question though, before I continue, is Ms. Sherman did mention you evoked the question of eminent domain as not a clear path right now, and I'd like to hear Miss Smith to weigh in on that. My understanding, by definition, it's any property for public use. Could that a golf course or the public, could that not fall into that category? Would you clear that up?
Actually, there is a statute, Florida statute, section 166.411. It provides the uses in which the city could actually use eminent domain. And it has to be within that list. The only thing that would be even close, which is not my opinion that a golf course would fit, is for public parks, squares, and grounds. But if it doesn't fit within one of those enumerated grounds, we are not able to use eminent domain. And we can't, even if somehow she allowed the property to go down and we thought it was a public nuisance, there is also statute that actually expressly says that we cannot use eminent domain to abate a public nuisance. We can't use a eminent domain to take property and then give it to a private developer. So the uses for, yes, it has to be a public purpose, but it has to be amongst the enumerated uses that the legislator has provided for us to be able to take someone's property.
Thank you for clarifying that. What I would say, as we move forward, Mayor, as we move forward, I'd say just continue the conversation. And I must disclose as well, I did have the opportunity to speak to a group of folks from Bayside, different communities that expressed a lot of good ideas, a lot of there's conversation amongst themselves, there's collaboration that, there isn't a clear path yet, but I know there's real effort, serious buyer interested party that they're trying to figure this piece out as well. So potentially what I would encourage is to engage these folks, who you are, engage with Ms. Sherman. See how do we move forward. Certainly Ms. Sherman get clear direction to continue that conversation. It sounds to me there's a willing council that needs to support the idea to maintain the golf course by voice of majority. So certainly, it's to continue that conversation, see where that falls.
And I thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will thank you for reminding me. I will disclose a conversation that I had with Tony Cantilano. I came to him and I shared with him. There's a organization out there that that's spending a lot of money on luring these golfers. And the LIV organization, they're taking golfers from the PGA. So I figured what a great opportunity for them to have an Arnold Palmer design golf course here and make it a training center, right? So I think Tony's exploring that. I'm looking at him. He is not, if anybody can make a deal like that, it'd be Tony Cantilano. But that would be a great opportunity for LIV. If you're listening, LIV, you're welcome to Palm Bay. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I think we have consensus here. Madam Sherman, continue the path. Explain to the landowner we are, there may be an opportunity for her to develop that multi-residential and yet keep our golf course. And if that's the case, maybe we can do a partnership where we could get that golf course, like Councilman Johnson said. They're working on a group of investors, an LLC, if you will. But the consensus is to go ahead and move forward. And the way I feel this dais right now, and I'm quite pleased with the outcome of this meeting, because we're all in agreement that the golf course represents this city of Palm Bay, which is the greatest city on the face of the earth. All right, so, ma'am, is that enough for you? All right, then this meeting's hereby adjourned.
Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business.